watching Thrifty Kaniffy. Hello everyone and welcome to Thrifty Kaniffy. So today I'm going to be doing something a little different than the norm. I'll be doing some disassembly and some blade swaps, basically, with two different knives. The first one I've got here is the APTA 2282. Okay, Ryder APTA moderate slip joint. This is model number 2282, and it's this red version. You've probably seen it maybe on other channels, but comes with that handle and this blade. Okay, and I've just disassembled it for the sake of time, so we wouldn't have to do this twice. The other knife that we're looking at is the 2314. Okay, and it's also an APTA in that same series, and it's this copper handled one. So I wanted to put the handle from the red aluminum knife onto this guy. That was the main goal. And then I guess eventually I'll take that blade and put it back over onto the red one. So we're just going to swap the blades, one to the other. But for the video, sake of the video, I'm just going to put the drop point blade that I like onto the copper handled knife. So there's no point in me doing it twice. I think once I've shown, the procedure, anybody else can figure out how to do whatever it is required to put whatever blade you want on, whichever other APTA you want. But I just want to make it evident that you can't actually swap these blades, or we'll find out. I guess I haven't done it yet, so we'll find out. So what do we got? We got a T8 here and a T6 here, and it's a pretty basic design, as you'll see when I open it up. You get a washer here, then the blade will be on here. Alright, and it's a little bit, got some resistance there because the spring is loaded, right? So you got to kind of wiggle the blade off. And then on the other side of the blade, you have another washer that will go there. And then this pivot screw, it'd be good to know that it is actually round. So as you unscrew, it can start spinning on the back side. So you may want to use 2 screwdrivers, right? So you might need 2 T8s and then 2 T6s, because the handle is just held on by 1 screw, and that's a T6. And there's a bushing that goes in between, a threaded bushing that goes into the spring, and it'll just start spinning if you loosen one side or the other too. So it's good to have a couple of T6s and a couple of T8s, and then 2 pairs of these type screwdrivers to hold them in place. Also, I'm using, and this is completely optional, but I like these little alcohol packs that wipe all the oil off and get all that off of there, and then lubricate after you're done, or like in the process of reassembly. But the thing that I noticed is that this spring, I don't think, is going to be identical to the one on here, and that probably has to do with maybe just a minor difference in the height that the blade needs to rest. I think the kick on this little stop is going to be a little different, so I'm going to remove the spring off of here as well, not just the blade. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and remove the pivot, take all the hardware off so I'm not losing it as I'm moving it around. Okay, and you're going to have a little pin there, and that pin is just part of the spring, hold it in place, and you just got a little recess where that goes into the metal there. Alright, so don't lose the pin. You're going to have 2 sides of the pivot, a screw for the handle, and then the little bracing spacer pin, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just going to leave that in place. I don't think that's going to matter. I mean, it's just a bushing anyways, or two-sided threaded little pin in the middle there. This is the important part. Okay, so we're going to leave that in there, and then we're going to swap this out with the one that's in here. So we're going to swap the blade and the spring. Okay, essentially is what we're going to do. So we're going to move all that stuff out of the way. Well, I'll show you how to disassemble this one, since I already did the other one. Okay, So let's start with the pivot screw, and this is the T8. And I can see it's trying to spin on the back side already, but I'm going to try to fight through it by pushing that down, and I was able to get the screw out. No big deal. Then my T6 over here. Remove that screw, and we should be able to get one side of the handle off. Alright. We'll just set our hardware up there at the top. We're not getting in the way or anything. And yeah, it's kind of spring loaded. As you pop this off, there's a little bit of tension on it. Okay, there you go. That came off without too much difficulty. And you're just going to take that little alcohol swab and try to clean that up a little bit. We're going to get that out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and remove the blade. Just be careful not to cut yourself. Might be easier just to open it and get it out of the way of the side and then pop it off like that. Yeah, it's easier to do. Alright, and you can see that there's a washer on either side. I just took that one off over there, and then there's that one still sitting there. Or bushing, I guess, whichever you want to call it. It's all the same to me. And then that pin, like I said, is circular, so there's no D shape to it. It just falls right out. Alright. And then we're going to take this spring off. And you know what I'm going to do? Go ahead and get like a Sharpie. Just mark it. This is the copper one. Alright, so we don't get them mixed up. I don't know if they're the same or not, but even if they aren't, they are kind of machined to work. So it probably is going to be in your best interest to just swap the springs. As long as they fit, I would think that would be the better thing to do. So we're going to take that one, the old one. You can see I put the X on that one, so that one's up there. And we're going to see if this fits. Let's see if the tolerances are tight enough I can fit that on there. Seems to work. Okay, everything's in place. Okay, so now we're going to put that pivot pin back in. And again, you got to kind of hold it flat to the table, otherwise it will just fall right out. So you might want to put a little grease on the back side of this to hold it in place, you know. Alright, and the way I'm going to do this, we're going to get that blade and put it up here, is I'm going to try to put it in place as it's in the open position. So let's make sure we get our washer on there first. And you might want to lube here, but I'm not going to do it right now, just because I'm trying not to make a mess as I'm doing this. But go ahead and put that in place and make sure that's flush. And then a little trick that I noticed earlier when I was taking the blade off is if you lift this slightly, not enough that it's going to free itself from that pin in the middle, but lift the spring slightly, kind of hold it there. It gives you a little more room to work with. And of course, make sure your blade's the right direction. And if you do that, you should be able to fit that on there kind of at the same time as a spring going down, and you kind of just put it into place as they both drop, if that makes sense. And then just make sure see how that's come apart a little bit. We want to make sure that that's flush to the handle all the way across, and that your pivot is pushed all the way up, that the pin is properly seated, and you should have some space there at the top for that to fit. Now the next thing you're going to do is put your washer on there. All right, and again, you would lubricate. I'll go ahead and put a little on there now, but you probably should put it on both sides. Alright, now we're going to fit the handle. And what I found about fitting the handle is to kind of head and put it on the back portion first. Let's go ahead and get it fitted to the back part first, and then we'll kind of twist it into place. And then it's a little bit spring loaded, or feels like it is. as you try to get it in place, because you got to remember that that pin has to get seated in there, right? On the other side, and that's the part that's hard to do. Okay, it's not the top or the bottom, it's the middle. So maybe position it like where you want on the pin, and then in the last step kind of push it forward like that, and it'll click in place. So kind of position it over here and then here, and then you kind of have to push the handle down with a little bit of that spring tension to get it locked over to the pivot. That's the best way to do it. Just kind of swing it into position. I'm going to go ahead and put the pivot in because that's the most critical part, getting that locked in place. And I just do a reverse spin until I feel it drop in, and then I make sure I don't cross thread anything. That would be bad. You don't want to cross thread anything. And then we'll put our little T6 screw in at the back. Alright, it's being kind of stubborn. It wouldn't help if I had my glasses on, but I'm kind of blind right now, to be honest. I don't know where my glasses are. I'm just trying to do this from afar. And I feel it going in there, so we should be good to go here. And give this a test. Make sure that we haven't screwed anything up. Now these are stainless hardware, so you're not going to want to torque these down. Once they're tight, that's plenty. Just, you know, get them tight enough. You don't want to do anything silly. And I'm just going to kind of test the tension of what I've got on this pivot screw. Might need to adjust that. But that feels really good. Yeah, that feels like it did on the other knife. So there you have it. There you got that blade on this beautiful copper handle. And man, that's exactly what I was going for. That's pretty nice. To me, that, you know, because I just didn't like the other blade. I'm thinking maybe I could just swap handles. And I'm glad I did switch the springs, because this fits down in there nice and perfect, like if it were on the other handle. So yeah, I would recommend changing the spring too, because I think the kick is just slightly different with each knife in the APTA series. You know, the little stop for the kick. So yeah, definitely change the springs out with the blade that it matched to. And that's going to need a little oil. I can hear it kind of being creaky. So I'll put a little oil right here in the pivot. That's all you need. Ooh, yeah, see, I need to oil that back. that washer in the back, if it needs a little oil. So I'll probably put in there a little more than I really need, just to make it simple on camera, but you probably don't need all that much. But we're going to work it in there. And I'm sure over time, like I said, you know, when you put it back together, lubricated, I just did for the sake of time. I didn't do it properly. But that's it. That's all there is to it, really, guys. Change the blade and the spring, and I think you'll be good to go. And then you can use whatever combination of APTA handle with APTA blade. You know, there's quite a few other options. There's a titanium option, and there's another either brass or copper version with like jigging on it, you know, made to look different. I decided to go with this smooth copper, and this one was, I want to say, $26 on Chicago Knife Works, and then the red one was like $18. So yeah, I'm gonna need a little lubrication. I may take it apart and re-lube it, but there you have it. Good to go. Centering is good. It's not perfect. Maybe just right of center, but not rubbing. It's not rubbing, it just needs oil on that bushing. But yeah, it is a little right of center. I wonder if I can tighten it up. Let's see if I can tighten it up and make it better. It seems to be where it wants to be. I actually tighten it too much now. And you might want to put a little Loctite on there when you're done. Did that fix it? That did actually seem to make it a little bit better. Might need just to be a little looser. Might have had it too tight. But there you have it. APTA blade swap. There you go, guys. Just something a little different today. You know, I had a viewer ask me about it, and then I was already in the process of doing it. I mean, I already had the idea in my head I was going to try it. And someone asked about it, so I was like, yeah, definitely going to move forward with that and make a video about it. So there you go. This is the copper-handled knife with the red-handled blade on it. Alright, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure you like, subscribe. Got any questions, just comment below, and I'll be happy to answer them. Alright, you guys take care. Alright, guys, a little bit of a follow-up from the end of the video there. I went ahead and put this back together. Just wanted to show you that that worked out fine. There was no issues with that, and the blade fits in there just perfectly, and it's well centered, and everything's fine there. And I went back and lubricated this one a little more. It's not squeaking anymore. It's just perfect now. Got really good snap. So yeah, yep, really happy with both. This one's just a little right of center, but not too bad. Nothing I could really do about that. It's just the way it is. I'm not even really sure if it was right of center to begin with. I don't think I ever really looked at it. But there you go, guys. Blade swaps with the APTA. They work good. Just make sure you change the spring along with the blade, and you should be good to go. Everything should be compatible that way. That just ensures that you're not going to have any issues. All right, take care.